Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted, hanging out with some of the colleagues here.
Dave.
Nate.
And today we got a GM 911 from DM Sagittarius.
Yes, we do.
And, you know, he's an up-and-coming player. You know, him and his group were all in high school. So, you know, way to bring the hobby into the younger ages. And his problem is they've been gaming for years, but the players are just not very talkative. They're not explorative. So my big question is what are they doing at the table? Like, what's actually happening?
All right, first of all, they're high school kids, right?
I remember rolling dice to attack, talking a few times, and that was the end of the session.
And we're talking about, let's look at, like, this hobby and, you know, the people it's made up of, and it's usually, like, introverts and outcasts.
That's true.
And so, okay, them not talking is kind of like the norm. You know, and if it just so happens that this group consists of all introverts, then yeah, they're probably not going to be. And it sounds like the DM's like the only extrovert out of all of them. You know, so what he's asking is help my players talk, but you know, it just might be beyond their scope right now. But you can encourage them. You can get them doing things like as the DM instead. You know, give them more NPCs to interact with. You know, ask direct questions. You know,
Absolutely.
if you can't get them to voluntarily talk, then you're probably gonna have to pull it out. Direct questions and make the questions relevant to the characters. Like, you have to try and either through talking to them or just through the gameplay figure out what it is the players want, and you know inject more of that into the game. Because the stronger they feel about a given subject, the more likely they are to come out of their shell. Mm-hmm. And also, like, if they're not making decisions, make them make decisions. Like, oh, the monster's running down the hallway right now. What do you do? Be direct. Don't leave it open ended for them to hem and haw and think about it. You know, you look at the dwarven fighter and be like, what are you doing right now? The monster's coming. You know, address individuals. And don't leave it up to, you know, a group conversation because they're not doing well with that. Mm-hmm. And or, you know, hey, the rogue, you know, looking directly at that player, rogue, you know, whatever, Gunthar, the human rogue, you're looking at him going, you know, you just took a step forward and you feel your foot sink as a pressure plate drops in the floor. What are you doing? You know, and then you throw it back to each one of them, and you know, over time, hopefully, you can pull them out of their shell.
Now we've had all types at our tables. We've had the type that sit back and don't say a word, and we've had the type, you know, we've said this on many videos where the guy literally busted out in the song at the table. So that's kind of the full gamut in my opinion. And one of the things that I do to kind of help encourage the players is it's a combination of in-game and out-of-game talking. You don't want to completely put the spotlight on an individual all the time, but at some point in time you do need to shine that light and say, all right, you're being, as you said, ask a direct question. You know, you want it so that it's like, all right, you know, here's something that according to your backstory is something that you're interested in. This character is now talking to you. Let's see what kind of dialogue can happen. Out of game when you're, you know, either talking face to face or you know, email, texting, you know, Facebook chats, however you want to communicate. Find out what kind of goals the characters have. You know, tease, you know, things that you want to bring up in your game. Find out what kind of things are going to spark their interest. So then when you're actually at the table, those things can happen, and it'll bring them, you know, closer to the more open dialogue that you're looking for.
And I would look towards figuring out what would make the people more comfortable. Like, you know, is it, you know, maybe having a different area, maybe somebody else's house. You know, kind of find out, like, well, you know, what would you rather be, where would you rather be if you would want to be someplace rather than here?
You bring up a very good point. Maybe they're gaming at maybe they're gaming at school in some place that's a trafficked area and they just don't feel comfortable. I remember one time, not that long ago, it was me, Mark, and a couple, Stefan, and a couple other guys gaming at Ryan's apartment, in Philadelphia, and he had roommates, and it was all good. We're gaming. Then all of a sudden, the roommates come home with with a bunch of their friends, and then all of a sudden, like, we're in the same area, and it just felt really weird to play a role playing game around Straits. You know what I mean? And so you're just like, I don't know. It made it uncomfortable for us, who have all been, for the most part, veteran role players.
Right.
Me, Mark, Ryan, for the most part, we've always kind of kept our gaming on the DL to begin with. And now all of a sudden you're like, your gaming social situation has been thrust into a larger social situation, and it was really uncomfortable. So you bring up a really good point. Where are you gaming at? Change the environment. That might help.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is that I just thought about is when the things that you do get a reaction from your players on, especially when they're that introverted or that quiet. Make sure you make notes.
Absolutely.
Figure out, because what you can do is you can start putting together like a list of hot buttons for your players that that you can push to try and get reactions, because the more often you can get them to react, the more normal it'll become.
Right. And
the more likely they are to do it.
Yeah, they've got to exercise that part of their brain, as well as, overall just exercising that social interaction. So
if the players bite onto a particular see if the players will actually react to some kind of reward system, and if the players are really concerned about mechanical growth, if they actually do decent RP, you could give them some kind of mechanical benefit.
I think you're overthinking this one. I think they're literally just high school kids. And think about what your game looked at like when you were playing in high school. You weren't really role playing. You were kicking in the door. You were kicking the monster and taking its stuff. Not that you can't be a high schooler and actually do RP. It all depends on how you're brought into the game and what your expectations are. Maybe maybe you guys could watch Acquisitions Inc. or something together. And see what a different game might look like. You could look at the Provokers on YouTube for A Fistful of Dice from Matt Click and see what that game looks like. Maybe give your players, maybe they need to see the game played a different way. Maybe they need another perspective.
I would say in the end, as the GM, I think it's like a major job of yours to keep the energy up for the group as well. I have a lot of fun with the young group that I'm with, because they all kind of keep the energy up. They're all friends, and it's all like, a lot of camaraderie going on. So things outside a game can influence and bother that and bring that down. But for the most part, they're helping keep the energy up. So if you're the only person, it can feel like an uphill battle if you're the only one keeping that up. So.
Well, yeah. And that's, but again, too, like even your young people, they're like college age.
Yeah, that's true.
They're a little bit older, and it also consists of people that are more extroverts, because several of them are performers.
Yeah, they're musicians and artists, pretty much almost all of them. So yeah,
he's just probably playing with regular nerds. We're a delicate folk, man. At least we can be. They're being stuffed in lockers, wedgies, swirlies, the whole 9 yards. They're shell shocked all the time. These kids need a little extra, a little help. But honestly, that's all I really have to say. A big part of it is probably the age. It just could be that personality types, and you're just gonna have to kind of work through it. And as the DM, like Nate said, you have to keep feeding the energy to them. Don't leave anything open ended, because this group doesn't do well with that. You need right or left, yes or no.
Direct questions to specific players.
Yeah, don't address them as a body. Address specific players, and if you do that enough over time, they'll probably start coming around, or they'll leave your game because they really don't want to be. They don't want to be talked to. Stop talking to me.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that you're still having fun with it. There's nothing worse than a DM who's no longer having fun in his game. So you want to make sure that you're still within your comfort zone,
He's fine. He's been dealing with some of these people for like 4 years.
That's true, but maybe I just.
But yeah, it's just trying to change tacks. That's all. Give them time limits on things, direct questions to specific people. I think that are going to be the 3 key elements to start with, and see where it goes.
Find out what, as players, they personally care about having in the game, and then also for the specific characters, what those characters are going to react to.
Player and character desires.
Yeah.
You want to be able to fulfill both.
So that can be just like a conversation at a game at the beginning of the session.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with going like, asking them, why do you guys play this game? Like, what do you expect to get out of it? What do you enjoy about it? And just have a conversation that's not in the game. Maybe you guys are just sitting around McDonald's having burgers and fries and shakes or something and just hanging out. He said friends, so I take it these are people that he normally hangs out with.
Right.
Well, during one of those hangouts, have a D&D discussion. Be like, what do you guys like about the game? Like, why do you guys keep playing? And maybe it turns out some of them that don't even like the game, they just want to hang out, and that's what you guys do. So I do that too. Like, who knows? But unless you ask these questions, you'll never get the answers.
And the other thing is, he's talking about starting a new game, so maybe get a little bit of feedback from the players to figure out what they want story-wise.
Definitely a session 0 as well.
Do a session 0. Talk about the kind of game you want to run, what your expectations as the GM are. Find out what their expectations as the players are. Give them some player agency in that session 0. Be like, like when I ran my session 0 for the game we've got coming up, I'm like, well, what do you guys feel like should be in this city you guys are going to be at? What do you want to see there? What, ask them. What do they want? Do they want halflings that are wolf riders? Do they want floating citadels? Like, nice. Yeah, nothing. It's a fantasy game. Nothing's off limits. They can at least say this is what my expectations are. Do they play video games? Maybe if you tailor your game towards the video games they play, maybe they'll enjoy that more. So
I think that about covers it.
I think so.
So if you guys have any other suggestions, go ahead and put in the comments below. While you're doing that, feel free to like, share, even subscribe.
You can check us out on Facebook.
You also join the conversation over on Reddit.
So until next time, stay nerdy.